Radical acceptance is the best way to start affecting change in your life. It may sound kind of counterintuitive, but when you fully embrace something that's happening or something that has happened in the past, for all its pain and intractability, it gives you the exact kind of grounded starting place that you need in order to start moving forward into something bigger and more beautiful and more true for you. Hello lovelies, welcome back to Squeaky's Cauldron, or welcome if this is your first time here. I'm your host, Sarah Evergreen, and today we're going to be talking about Hekate's key of acceptance and the gate of bondage that it unlocks. And in my opinion, yes, that is exactly as sexy as it sounds. As always, I like to begin these episodes to Hekate with an opening prayer. If you would like to join me, please close your eyes and find yourself in a comfortable space, or at least find some level of peace within you wherever you are and whatever you're doing. And if you would like to skip this, please just jump ahead a couple of minutes and we'll see you on the other side. Hail Hekate, Queen of Witches, our journeys are so blessed. Each key you grant us unlocks great power. Grateful we are for all your keys. The key of connection, which reminds us we are not alone. The key of solitude, in which we may come home to ourselves. The key of acceptance, for that which we cannot change. The key of courage, to face and overcome adversity. The key of desire, which brings us strength. The key of vision, so that we might move freely. The key of honesty, which brings us peace. The key of curiosity, so that we might live lives of truth and joy, and the key of devotion. Hekate, I live my life in service to you. Guide me, make me ready, illuminate my next right step. Help me to see more clearly and align more fully with my highest purpose and my highest self, so that I might better serve you, serve myself, and serve those around me. Aho. Thank you for joining me if you did, and thank you for honoring your boundaries if you chose to skip that. In the Alcoholics Anonymous program and all of the other Anonymous programs, they have what's called the Serenity Prayer. You've probably heard it. It goes like this: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now you notice it's not called the Courage Prayer or the Wisdom Prayer. It's called the Serenity Prayer, and I think that there's a very good reason for that. It focuses, it doubles down on the acceptance part. Accepting that which you cannot change. That is what is going to bring about a sense of, well, when you think of serenity, what do you think about? I think about a person who seems very rooted in the present moment and able to move through whatever comes at them and through them with a state of grace. So there's kind of two kinds of acceptance, and I want to focus on one of them here. So the first that I'm thinking about is like self-acceptance. Accepting where you are, what your different personality quirks are. The other kind of acceptance I want to talk about more in depth is that around things that you can't change. Things that happened in the past. Maybe ways that you were raised, or hurts that came up. Someone cheated on you, or somebody got the job that you wanted. And also things that are happening in the present that you can't change, like someone else's pain. You can't change someone else's pain, and you have very little actual control over how they choose to move through the healing process with that pain. Not accepting these things keeps you locked behind the gate of bondage. And this feels like being consistently disappointed. This feels like banging your head against a wall. It feels like being imprisoned by circumstances around you. And often this will feel like a very confusing space to be in too, because when you're doing that, you're consistently gaslighting yourself. You're telling yourself that things are okay, or if things could be this way, if only just, and I'll just keep going down this road because, it's fine when it's not. And this is wrapped up in denial too. It's all there in those bonds that keep you stuck And you end up doing the same thing over and over and over again, thinking that you have no other option. But you do. The way that I see Hekate in this key is that she is both clear-sighted and she is triple-sighted. So the clear-sighted, if you go back to Hekate's epithets for rage-inducing times, that video I made, you will see an epithet about Hekate's clear-sightedness. I can't remember what exactly the epithet is at the moment, but she is able to see through bullshit. When we embody this too, when we evoke this too, we can see through our own bullshit and into the reality of the situation that we find ourselves in and the things that have happened in the past. I keep mentioning things that have happened in the past because I know that this can be a real sticking point, especially when there's been trauma or abuse, particularly by a parent. It can be very, very challenging to accept that that happened, or to even admit that that happened in many cases. And Hekate, as triple-sighted, she can see the past, the present, and the future. So when you are able to see clearly what's happened and what's happening now, you can then begin to envision a future with much more clarity and much more strength that you can move towards. I find the Seven of Swords from the Rider-Waite-Smith deck comes up a lot when I think about the Gate of Bondage and the Key of Acceptance. We have a figure who is bound by hands and she's blindfolded. She, in that moment, feels constricted, like she has no other options. If she steps to the left or the right, she's going to get cut. The thing is, because she has the blindfold on, she doesn't know that she can step forward or backward and be fine. And this is often the place that we find ourselves in. We put the blindfold on ourselves. We bind ourselves by our hands so that we can't do something. And then say, there's no other options. Everywhere that I turn, I'm going to get cut. So the key then, the next step in that card, is to take off the blindfold and release your hands. Because you can see in this card that she's not bound that tightly. She has the option to open up her eyes and move freely, as we all do. Some things to remember when you're exploring this key. Acceptance is not the same as acquiescence or complacency. When I say acceptance, it's not me saying this thing is okay and I'm going to allow it to be in my life because I accept it. No. What I'm saying when I say accept something is being able to see it as it is, without any kind of story wrapped around it, or as little bit of story as possible, because we're all dealing with stories all of the time. This is powerful. Complacency is powerless. It's giving your power over to the thing that's happening, or to another person, or to a past event. Acceptance is, I see you clearly. I see this clearly, and now I know where I stand and how I can move forward. I think of this a lot like a map. If you are in Denver, but you're convincing yourself that you're in San Diego, and you need to get to Chicago, the route that you map, thinking you're in San Diego, is not going to get you to Chicago from Denver. The directions are going to be all wrong. But if you accept that you're in Denver, and it's fucking cold, and it's Denver, and you don't really want to be there, but that's where you are anyway, you can start to actually map yourself to a different place with efficacy. That is not to say that the key of acceptance is easy. It is a challenging thing, because first we have to admit that we've been lying to ourselves. And that is very often not an easy pill to swallow, but it is a necessary one. We have to be honest, and we'll get to the key of honesty in a few weeks here. If you are enjoying this episode, please drop a like below. It really helps the channel and it helps me out. Also, if this is your first time here and you haven't subscribed yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. This channel is awesome. It's great for anyone who is seeking to deepen their knowledge about magic, witchcraft, Christianity, self-growth, cool stuff. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and make sure you turn your notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. The mundane practice that I want to offer you for utilizing the key of acceptance to unlock the gate of bondage is something I call fixation journaling. This is essentially a mindfulness technique. And what you're going to do is start paying attention to what your mind is doing and making a record of it. It can be extremely powerful to take the thoughts and the thought patterns out of our head and put them onto paper. Because then we have a record and we have a black and white view of, oh, fuck, I keep going around the same circle over and over and over again. When it's just left in our head, it can loop without any kind of recognition or any way to stop it. We have to be able to see, again, acceptance, see what's happening in order to change it. I want you to start paying attention to the excuses that you are making for yourself and for other people, particularly around what's happened in the past. You all know, if you've been watching this channel for a while, that I grew up in a difficult home environment. And it wasn't until about 7 years ago, give or take, I was sitting on the back porch of my then boyfriend's mom's house reading a Brene Brown book. I remember the scene so clearly. It was sunny, it was gorgeous, and the book in question was, I thought it was just me, but it wasn't, which I highly recommend to anyone looking into de-shaming themselves and becoming this juicy, shameless person in the world, which is exactly where I'm aiming. So I'm sitting back there, I'm reading the book, and there's something in it that she says, I can't remember what exactly. It made me realize that I had every right to be angry with my father. And it's something, so I'd carried around plenty of anger. I had just kind of held on to it and repressed it as much as possible, which meant that obviously it came out in really ugly ways many times. If for more on this, check out the shadow work video, which should be coming out in a few days. We'll see. So that anger was there, and denying that it was there and denying everything that I'd gone through, because I would make so many excuses for him in my head, not even conscious verbal excuses, but just this general feeling of, no, it wasn't that bad, it's fine. But the rage, oh my God, guys, the rage, potent. I remember even saying to the man that would become my husband, who would later become my ex-husband, in the beginning of our relationship, he said something about coming between me and my dad, and I was like, oh, no, that's ridiculous. That's not even possible. Yeah. And now I don't talk to my dad. Coming to grips with the fact that, not only did I have this anger, but I had a right to this anger. And the reason that this anger existed was because of things that I'd been through in my childhood. That was a fucking game changer. I was able to start processing all of that anger, and it still comes up a little bit here and there, but the amount that it exists in my body at this point is so much smaller, and I'm able to move through situations that are triggering or would have been triggering because I've done this work of acceptance at every step in the road. Okay, that hurt me. This person did this thing that hurt me. Let's look at it, let's look into the deepness of it, and let's see if this person is someone that I actually want to allow access to my life. Because that's part of the acceptance, is maybe this person's behavior has been proven to be such a strong pattern that it's not acceptable. So that's what I mean when I say, look at the excuses that you're making for people. Has someone hurt you and you keep saying, it's fine, it's okay, they're going through a lot? This is not the same as compassion. Having compassion for someone is, yes, seeing that maybe they're going through a lot, that they've been through a lot, and that this affects them in a particular way. Acceptance is, they're going through a lot and this hurt me. And that's okay that it hurt me. I mean, it's not okay, but it's okay to recognize that it hurt me and say it aloud. Make notes of the excuses that you're making for other people. And then the next step in that is, how are those excuses serving you? Because they will be. There's always a reason that we do something. And generally speaking, it's to avoid pain or to seek pleasure. So be honest with yourself. What are you getting from making these excuses? It may be a sense of security. It may be a sense of safety. It may be an avoidance of conflict. I just want you to be able to see it so that that knowledge can start working on you internally. And then lastly, what would you say to this person if you could? Even if it's something that happened 25 years ago and you don't know that person anymore, and maybe you can't even remember their name. Like if it's a teacher that did something particularly hurtful, what would you say to them if you could, if there were zero consequences to saying exactly what was on your heart? And then I want you to say that in a letter, in a recording, either one of those works, but do know this letter, this recording is not for anyone else. This is not a letter to be sent. This is not a recording to be played. This is for you in order to be able to externalize what you've been holding on to for so long so that you can see it, so that you can process it. And it may take writing so many letters. I have so many letters to different people in different notebooks that do exactly this. You hurt me. Often I'll say a bunch of curse words because just to get the anger out, to express it, is really important. Anger, sadness, disappointment, whatever it is, express it. This is what I mean when I say use your voice. Well, one of the things I mean. If you are interested in going deeper with Hekate and her keys, or working with Lilith, or just bringing more magic into your life to breathe joy and divine inspiration into your everyday, please check out my coaching offers in the links below. I am a spiritual life coach and I would love to work with you. Schedule a 20-minute discovery call today to see if maybe we'll vibe. And the magical practice for working with the key of acceptance and the gate of bondage. This is going to require that you have 2 bowls, one of which is filled with stones or something that can stand in for stones. You can use the little glass things that go at the bottom of a fish bowl, or even a handful of pennies would work well. And then you'll have another bowl that has some water in it. And you'll want enough water to be able to cover whatever material you choose for your first bowl, but not so much that it's going to overflow when you transfer everything. So 2 bowls, and you'll sit down, cast your circle, open the space, cleanse, ground and center, all that good stuff, and then invoke Hekate. You want her there with you, her backup, her support, and her energy for this clear seeingness, for this understanding and acceptance. And there are many ways to invoke Hekate. The prayer that I said at the beginning of this episode is a great way, or just use your own words, whatever feels natural to you. You can just talk to her and be like, hey, Hekate, I'm calling you in for this because I want this support from you. Then you'll sit down in front of your 2 bowls and pick up a stone. Now, each of these stones is going to represent something that you have experienced that hurts. And ideally something that you've experienced that hurts that you don't want to admit to hurting. Because maybe the person who inflicted that pain is someone that you don't want to hold responsible for whatever reason. Recognize that this is your safe space. This isn't going outward at this point. This isn't going outward. This is just for you. So take the stone in your hand and sit with whatever that experience is and push that energy into the stone. Allow yourself to feel as much as is safe for you to feel. I don't say safe and comfortable because this isn't going to be comfortable and you can navigate discomfort. So sit with it to the point where it feels safe, because I don't want you to move into a space of re-traumatizing yourself, but I do want you to be able to start moving that energy into the stretch zone and not into the panic zone. Once you feel like the stone has taken on enough energy, or you've delved into that feeling or experience enough for the moment, put it into the bowl of water. The water is there as a rebirth energy. The water has that feminine dynamic to it, that transmutative dynamic to it. Do this with each stone, sitting with it as long as it feels safe, and then putting it in the bowl. And understanding that what you're doing is just kind of mining things. dusting away debris so that you can see them more clearly, so that you can recognize what it is that's happened, how you feel, and ideally that you can come to a sense of being okay with the fact that your pain is valid and you have every right to feel the way that you feel. When you're done transferring all of the stones or pebbles, whatever, into the second bowl, you'll thank Hekate for being there. I prefer when I'm working with a deity or spirit to not send them away, but rather say, thank you for your assistance in this, and the circle is now open, or the space is now open. Stay as long as you like. And that, I think, is, I don't know, just being a good host. And then you'll take the bowl of water and stones to a tree. And if you need to transfer this into a Tupperware or something so that it's easier to carry, of course, feel free to. You'll take this to the base of a tree and you'll empty the water onto the roots so that the earth can take the water and allow something new to grow. If you're using stones, you can leave those at the base of the tree, depending on the tree. But if you're using the little glass pebbles or pennies, please take them home with you, do a cleansing on them, and then either move them out of your space or repurpose them in some way. Again, bringing that rebirth kind of energy into whatever it is. If you're using pennies, this might be fun to, I don't know, put it towards something that you want to invest in. And of course, it may just be 20 or 30 cents, but it's something. As I mentioned in the overview video for Hekate's keys, these keys do shift, and my keys have shifted over the years. What I found interesting happening with the key of acceptance over the last probably month or so, maybe less, probably less, is that it's started shifting as well. I've been working with the key of acceptance for years now, and it informs so much of how I move through the world, how I move through my internal world especially. Now I see that it's starting to move into the key of forgiveness. And that's a whole nother ball of wax that we can open at a later date. But I just wanted to give you some real-time update as to how these things can move and develop. The key of forgiveness, I feel like, is a natural extension of the key of acceptance. And it's not, I forgive you and I bring you back into my life, but I forgive you and I let go of it. And we can't forgive until we've accepted that something happened. Choosing to avoid the reality of a situation, a desire, or a pattern doesn't make it go away. It makes it dig its claws in and stick deeper and affect parts of our lives that we want to be clear and beautiful. Beginning to practice radical acceptance with the knowledge that Hekate has your back every step of the way can really help you move into that expansive, brighter space for yourself and to change the things that maybe you've been looking to change for years. To go deeper with the key of acceptance, check out this meditation that I made specifically to go along with this video. And until next time, my lovelies, take care of yourselves and use your voice.